Again, thank you for joining us. My name is Abraham Baeza, and I am the EOP Outreach Specialist for the Education Opportunity Program here at Cal State Northridge. So just keep in mind that there is EOP programs all throughout the CSUs. And today we're specifically going to speak on some of the resources that are offered here at CSUN specifically, and then also walk you through the application. Go ahead, Albert, you can introduce yourself.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good evening, I should say. My name is Albert Martinez, and I'm here. Glad to be here with all y'all. And I am the outreach intern for the Educational Opportunity Program at Cal State Northridge.
Today, what essentially we're going to be doing is walk you through the EOP application, ask you any of the questions that we may have, as well as we're going to go over the criteria for EOP. So a lot of times, students question whether they're going to meet the criteria or not. So Albert will be doing what the portion is with the application. I'll be doing the EOP criteria and just giving you a little bit of history. And then we're going to go ahead and do a Q&A to answer all of your questions. Awesome. All right. So again, just a little bit about ourselves, some of the history of the program. Our foundation is, I hope that you were able to be present in one of our presentations that we obviously offered at the high schools. We did kind of go over the foundation of the program at our campus and kind of what took place, but the Educational Opportunity Program is a program that helps underserved populations, right? Such as historically low income, historically educationally disadvantaged, and a first generation college student. A lot of times people question what that, if they meet those qualifications. So if you do have any questions in regards to whatever it may be, if you fit the historically low income criteria or the first generation college student, again, this is the time to ask those questions. All right, so again, EOP offers a variety of different services here at the university, helping students not only gain access to the university, but also provide resources throughout their time here, right? So a lot of times, students, especially first generation college students, go to college, and when they don't have, a good resource or a good community, a lot of the resources that the campus actually offers, there's no exposure, right? And coming from a low-income community, we know how important it is for us to expose ourselves to different resources to, again, gain important information and support. That way we can be successful throughout our college journeys. All right, so again, that's just a little bit about what the program provides. Some history, again, the foundation is many people, risk their, I would say their lives, so we can have this program established, right? This program was established in 1969, when there was a lot of, things going on in terms of race, right? So a lot of, you would go into a university and there wasn't a lot of people of color. And the way I like to describe it is, the very few people that were at these institutions, speaking on the Metro, right? The Mexican Americans, UMAS, or the Black Panthers, Black students, as well as Latino students, they kind of looked around and said, you know what? We don't see a lot of people that look like us here, right? We need to speak up. We want to see people that are from our communities also be in these spaces, right? Also have an opportunity to educate themselves, to be better, right? To have some type of credibility in this country. And one thing that, is very, very important is that nobody could ever take the education that you have away from you, right? So it's an amazing investment. So that's just a little bit about the foundation of EOP. Again, it wasn't a program that was just given. It was something that was fought for. And myself, I was privileged to take one of these seats. And, I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for the programs, a program that really gave me an opportunity to just be present with myself, to discover myself of who I am and what I wanted to do, what I wanted to be going on in my life. And again, I got that opportunity because of a lot of the sacrifice that the individuals, that were part of the activism, the organizing, the protest did. And now these seats and this opportunity is being exposed to y'all attending today. And today, you know, I'm excited. We do have a special guest and one of our students. You know, he is now an alum, which he was speaking. We will be asking him questions later on in the presentation, and he can tell you also a little bit about his experience within the program. Moving forward, so again with the criteria, again, you must be historically low income. So what does that mean? Historically low income, basically, so let me give you an example. Right now, within the pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs, right? So let's say, just as an example, let's say that my mom was a surgeon when I was growing up and we were well off. We did very well financially. And for whatever reason, now she lost her job, right? This is again, you know, she lost her job like 2 years ago and now she works warehouse. And now I'm eligible for, you know, free lunch and different things. So now we are considered low income. The program, that wouldn't be, we wouldn't consider that historically low income. So we look at a 10-year period, right? So if, again, like for example, my background, right? I lived in a trailer park my whole life. You know, there was always, we always were on government assistance, whether it was food stamps, right, Medi-Cal. I always qualified for free lunch, things like that. So if you find yourself, you know, knowing, hey, you know, I qualified for free lunch all the time going to school, right? You may be historically low income. So it's definitely, again, something to consider. And if you're not sure, always feel free to ask this question. Historically, educationally disadvantaged. What does that mean? A lot of times, again, it's more so within the spaces in our communities, the resources that are available to us. One of the examples that I always use is if we were to just, you know, just drive by a Crenshaw High School compared to a Beverly Hills High School, we'll see a difference in just the structure of the buildings, right? And if we look deeper, we'll see a difference in the resources that are offered, right? So again, it's no one's fault. It's not the teacher's fault or the counselor's fault at these institutions. It's all just how, you know, our society was built. And, you know, as we see institutionalized, right, racism and things like that, you know, the terms that are being thrown out right now in today's society, we still see that these problems still exist. And that's exactly why it's crucial for something like EOP to still have seats available for students like yourselves. Also, being a first generation college student, that means basically that you're the first in your family to go to college. I get a lot of students that ask me all the time, right? Well, my sister's in college. Does that mean I'm not first generation anymore? You would still be considered first generation, right? It would have to be basically like your kids if you had kids, right? Or if your parents had a college degree, a 4-year college degree, and then you would go towards a college degree, then you would be the second generation college student because your parent already went, right? So we have a question. One of them, it says, do we have to meet all 3 points of the criteria? Yes. So to be considered in EOP, you would need to meet all 3 points of the criteria, right? Historically low income, historically educationally disadvantaged, and also a first generation college student, right? If you do not meet one of these, then that will result in a disqualification, right, of the program. However, that does not mean that you can't attend CSUN, right? And it does not mean that there's not other similar resources that are offered on campus. All right. So again, we still highly encourage you to, you know, don't get discouraged. Still, if you don't meet the requirements, still look into CSUN. You know, our campus provides amazing resources as well. However, with EOP, it's just that extra support, right? It's that extra support, right? So we have another great question, right? So again, within the parent, someone asked, so they would have to have graduated college. Yes, they would have to graduate college already, right? So let's say that your parent is still like in the process of going to college and you're still signing up. You can still, you still may qualify as the first generation, right? Because your parent has not completed it. Yes. So again, so let's say your parent went to college, but they never finished, right? Again, you would still qualify, right? They must hold some type of bachelor's degree, some type of education title, again, that gives them some type of credibility, like having the bachelor's degree, having a master's, then that would make you second generation, right? And another great question, right? Does qualifying for the program guarantee acceptance? Or is this for consideration? Yeah, just because you qualify doesn't mean you're automatically going to get accepted. And that's a great question that's going to take us to our next topic, the EOP selection process, right? The EOP selection process is basically we review the EOP application, right? Considering that you meet all the criteria. Then in your application, you have 2 recommendation forms that you must get either from a counselor or a teacher, right? At least one has to be from an academic source, right? Whether it be a counselor or teacher. So again, don't ask, your best friend, right? You want to make sure that it's a good source and they could talk on your academic experience. Albert, we are getting very great questions on the chat. So if you see some questions that you can answer right off the bat, please do, and I'll go ahead, continue to just rephrase them. But that way we just, stay on track with time.
Answer them on the chat, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And then, yeah. So again, be on the lookout on the chat, yeah. That way we can just continue the course and then also make it open for the Q&A later on. But again, continue asking the questions. Amazing. So after that, we review the financial documents, right? On what, what your parents' occupations are, the money that you receive, to make sure that you're low income. Let's say for whatever reason, your parents don't file taxes, right? Because that happens a lot. You want to make sure that you fill out what we call an EOP income verification form. And that is on our website at www.csun.edu/EOP. You will find it on the top right. It says EOP income verification form, and that's what you would put. And on that verification form, that's where you would put whether you qualify for free lunch or something that obviously is going to prove to us that you are a low-income student, right? After that, let's say you pass all those things and you do well, we're going to invite you to an EOP interview, right? So we're going to invite you to an EOP interview. So again, the EOP interview is also a critical part of the presentation, of the EOP admissions process, because that is where we get to know you, right? That is where we get to know you. Sorry, I'm letting people into the meeting right now. All right, but that is where we get to know you as a student, right? Again, one of the things that we value in EOP, and I can speak for myself, right, is the experiences that you go through in life. So for me, growing up in a trailer park, right, there was a lot of struggle. There was a lot of challenges, a lot of hardship. But this program saw value in that, saw value in my struggle, saw value in my hardship, and most importantly, saw the hunger that I had to be successful, right? And this is why it's important that when you go to your EOP interview, you make sure that you're honest, right? I had a great mentor in Sean. Sean is actually the director now in Dominguez Hills. And one thing he always told us is, just make sure you're speaking from your heart, that you're being real with yourself. And I carry that advice, till this day. So now I get to share it with y'all, if you get to this EOP interview process, speak from your heart and be honest about your experiences. So after you get admitted to the program, you get into the transitional program. So it is required, all EOP students are required to, do an EOP transitional program. So obviously in a normal world, we would have a residential bridge program and a commuter bridge. Residential, they would stay at the dorms. Commuter, they would commute, right, to and from school. So since we're not currently with the pandemic, we are doing a virtual bridge. So we still want to provide, the resources that we can to our students. And, what that consists of is still continuing to give them the workshops from different support services on campus, right? Continuing to allow them to meet their EOP advisors, where they get to create their schedule within those 6 weeks That way, when they hit the first year of school already, they already have their schedule created. One good thing about our EOP advisors is that they take a holistic approach. So they ask questions like, you know, if you're working, if you plan on working as a college student, right? If you have some responsibilities at home, some challenges, and how can we best create a schedule that you're going to be successful in, right? So that's an amazing resource that we have. And then also you're taking a GE course throughout those 6 weeks too. So you're taking a University 100 class, which all freshmen get to take, and you're already taking it in the summer. So you're already kind of getting an advantage and kind of like a sneak peek of what the virtual college world is going to be like. And I think for me, one of the best resources you have is you have a mentor, right? You have someone that you can always contact, someone that you can talk about maybe some of the challenges that you may be going through, just so many different types of you know, things that you know, for me, my mentor was critical in my process in transitioning from high school to college, right? So again, just keep in mind that, you know, I wish I had much more time to talk about our resources, but I do want to get to your questions, and also, you know, have Albert, you know, do a little rundown of the EOP application. But just to mention, we also have an EOP Resilient Scholars Program. So if you do find yourself, you know, fitting the foster youth criteria and you have a court award, something to prove that, we have an amazing Resilient Scholars Program. I believe they're actually in a social right now, but it's basically all about community building. You get priority registration, and lots more. So if you want to know more about the EOP Resilient Scholars Program, feel free to email me or Albert. And then, you know, at the end of the presentation, we'll make sure to give you our contact information. That way you can hit us up directly. All right. So again, these are just some of the satellites that we have. Albert, did you want to add something? All right, awesome. So these are just some of the satellites that we have. So as you see, this is kind of like the components of our program. We have a EOP admissions. So I want to really, you know, bring a lot of attention to this. We have our own admissions process, and there's a reason for that, right? You notice in the criteria that I didn't mention a GPA, that I didn't mention an E through G requirement, right? We advise all students to apply, right? Because like me, you know, I didn't qualify, right, with regular admission, right? I got lucky. I took advantage of that slot, of a special admit slot. And, you know, now I'm here, you know, giving back to the program. So again, if you may not meet the GPA criteria or the A through G, we still advise you to apply. Again, this is not a guarantee that you can get in, but it's a possibility, right? You may have an opportunity to still attend CSUN despite, you know, not doing very well academically, right? We know, and as a program, we understand that there's a lot of hardships at home. And for me, you know, it was a mixture of the neighborhood I grew up in, right? Obviously the school, my family struggles, right? All those things kind of, you know, played a role in my success, and we see that. And I can tell y'all right now that in back of, you know, every single square here, we know that you also have a story. We know that you also have some type of challenge that you're going through. And, you know, we as a program, we want to be able to help you out and support you the best we can. So again, we just want to let y'all know that, you know, you also have what it takes. You know, you also have what it takes. And, you know, if no one has told you today that they believe in you, know that we here at EOP, we do, and we always will. So whenever you feel that, you know, you want, you know, support or whatever, if you need assistance, one-on-one assistance in getting that application in, definitely email myself or Albert. You have our direct emails on this slide right there. So you can either screenshot it, right, save it, and set up an appointment with us. We're more than willing to be on the Zoom call with you, answering any of the questions. We do understand that when it comes to obviously our EOP application, there is some personal questions. So again, feel free to hit us up, let us know, and you know, let's get you to apply. Let's get you to apply. It's never too late. And if you have any doubts, let's have that conversation as well. All right.
Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. So I have created an account just so we could, just for the sakes of a visual thing, aid. I created an account so we could go over the application. Can you see it?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, so so I'm assuming you're all here by now. If someone could at least tell me yes, no. So this part, it's really not that difficult. Like I will get into the most, like some of the most the more difficult part of the application, but basically a lot of these questions are going to be really straightforward, and I'm going to play with it so you guys can see. If any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to open up your mic and tell me, let me know, and that way I could try something different so we could visually see what pops up and what it is you're expected to enter. So so right here, the first question automatically is EOP&S. Like for those of you that are transferring, you obviously you would click yes, right? And I mean, not too much changes, so it's really straightforward. So you know, if you're transferring, if you're coming from a community college, all it's going to ask you is just if you're currently enrolled in a program in any of these campuses, and you just pick the one you're in, click it in, and that'll be it. If you're a freshman coming from high school, all you're gonna do is click no. And this is the part where it's asking you if you want to apply to the program. So, you know, obviously you gotta like click on here and it's gonna open everything up. So do you wish to apply to the Education Opportunity Program? And we're just gonna go ahead and click yes, and it's opening this up. So it's asking you, have you previously attended a CSU? You know, no. Have you participated? And this is where it's for you. Oh my God, what's my thing? For you, what was Soraya? This is where you're gonna like make sure if you participated in any of these programs while in high school, or even if you're transferring and you participated in any of these programs, make sure you check them off. So if you were in Upward Bound, if you did the Puente project or the Mesa project or any other project, anything that was considered foster youth or anything like that, or just go ahead and click on it, and then it's just gonna ask you like how many years did you participate. It's gonna see a number of years you participated in AVID during high school, Upward Bound, how many years, and if you haven't, just go ahead and press no. But if you do, go ahead and so just for the sake of this example, I'm just gonna put 2 years. So now we're going into your family information. And the first question it's going to ask you is, where do you plan to live while attending college? And depending on what your plans are, if you're going to live with your parents or off campus, if you're going to live with your parents, it's just that simple. How many brothers and sisters do you are currently attending high school? And it's just, you know, depending what your family looks like. So I'll go ahead and just, for the sake of just doing this, I'm gonna go ahead and mark these all off so we can go through this thing. Okay, so how many brothers are attending college? And if it's 0, you're gonna put 0. If it's 1, you're gonna put 1. How many brothers have a thing? Again, it's just for the sake of just this example. And what languages have you spoken in your home? So for those of you who speak Spanish or any other language or none, you could just put none. And let me go ahead and move this. It's blocking my thing. Okay. So this is where it's going to start asking you, like, you know, to get a better sense of if you're historically low income, like, you know, because most of these things, you know, are what determine if you are. So during the past years, have you or your family received any income from public assistance, such as CalWORK, which is that, you know, most commonly known by, you know, as EBT. You know, some of us, you know, refer to that EBT as Eat Better Today. So if you're familiar with that and your family receives that, just go ahead and press yes. And all it's going to ask you is just like how many years. So for some of us, it's the majority of our lives, and just go ahead and enter it. I mean, I would say, oh, 15 years types of aid, and you're just gonna like, if you're not so if you're not aware exactly, like this is a conversation that you might, quick conversation you might want to have with your parents, because some of your parents might be receiving EBT or food stamps and all that, and you might not be aware of it. Some of them might be receiving CalWorks or all that. So just make sure you have this conversation with your parents. That way you're aware of what they are receiving, and then that way you could add it. Because this might help determine, if you are historically low income. So for right here, I'm just gonna go ahead and put CalFresh. And then, have you or your family ever participated in any of the funded programs such as subsidy housing? If your family ever lived like the projects or anything like that, or it doesn't even have to be the projects. I grew up, my family was on Section 8, and the majority of my life were in apartments, and towards the end, my parents did rent a house under Section 8. So. And then right here, again, the same thing. You're going to just list whatever, whatever program your family was in. And again, this is a conversation that you should be, have with your parents. That way you're better aware, because, you might not know that they were in housing. Sometimes parents don't have these conversations with their children. So just make sure you have that. And so for this, I'm just going to go ahead and put Section 8. And then, do you or any other children in your family work primarily to contribute to the household? So again, this is just to prove the historically low income, So, if you have a brother, like even if it's not you that's working, but if you have a brother that has to work to help your parents pay the rent, bills, this is where you would like go ahead and click the yes. And this is where you explain. And so I'm going to give you a little, I think I can't see the chat for some reason right now since I'm sharing my screen, but somebody explained like some of this, right? Like what do they put here? And this is where you have a chance to kind of, to tell us more about who you are and your experiences, I should say. So, and this is where I advise all students to be in any of these questions right here, where it gives you opportunity to explain certain things, right? To be as vulnerable as you can, So this is a program like where just because you apply to the program doesn't mean you are automatically accepted. So how can I say this? So the most vulnerable you are, like it's just you're giving yourself better chances, So if it's gonna come down between certain people that certain students and somebody just writes like I was low income growing up, period, versus somebody that really takes like a little bit more time to really like see some of the struggles they face, someone that is okay with being a little bit more vulnerable and says, what, my dad was deported, and I had to work, or my brother had to work, and it was difficult for us. And it's just that vulnerability that's going to let the program get a better sense of who you are and what hardships you face, so that way they can see the drive in you. Because at the end of the day, that's where we're looking for, the program is looking for the best candidates for this. So the more vulnerable you are, like the more of a chance the program is going to get to see you for who you are. So just let the program see you for who you are. So for here, just for these purposes, I'm going to go ahead and just put sample, and then I'm going to continue and save. And that is pretty much it. Kind of almost remember, like I thought there was more to this, but it's just depending on some of the things that you click. Sometimes you're going to get different options to write different things. So it's just pretty much that simple. If some of you get something different, depending how you answer these questions, it's going to look a little bit different for everybody. But again, I do want to stress, for a little piece of advice, just try to be as vulnerable as you're comfortable with. You don't have to, that's on you, but I would suggest just be vulnerable. Just that way the program gets to see you for who you are. Because if you're not, then how's the program supposed to see you for you? And I guess
just to add on to what Albert was saying with these questions, just think of this application as your ticket into the interview, right? Think of it as a ticket to interview. So you want to make sure that you're just being real, being straightforward with whatever you're comfortable with, because again, it is like a ticket into your interview. This is giving the program a glimpse of maybe some of the challenges that you've faced already and that you've overcame. And, this invites us to basically see, okay, we want to, look into the student more. And we invite you into the interview. So again, we don't want essays for each question, just one or two paragraphs or one paragraph, whatever you can condense it in. We've gotten applications before where it's literally an essay for each question. So again, you can lean off of that. Better, first, prioritize it with in one or two paragraphs. Okay.
Yeah, thank you for that, Abraham. There is a word limit. Adhere to that. My bad. I should have said that. But yeah, there is a word limit on there. So just please try to adhere to that. So moving on, we're on to the second part of this. And again, this is pretty much straightforward. It's asking you your parents' names. Just so, I'm gonna use my parents' name. So just not to generalize anything or stereotype anything, but parent one, occupation, and it's just gonna ask you for your occupation. I'll just put labor. And do you have information on the second parent? And if you do, just, it's going to be the same thing. Okay, occupation. So it's going to ask you, and this is to determine the historically low income. What your parents did 10 years ago, as Abraham, explained earlier. It's historically. So if you're, like how he said, if one of your parents was a doctor and he just recently got laid off, like that historical part's not there. So this is just pretty much to determine the historical part of it. So this is why it asks you right here what their occupation is now and what it was 10 years ago. So just for the sake of this, I'm going to put no. And this is where it's asking you for your income. So pretty much it's going to ask you for your for their income, and this is where you need to have that conversation with your parents. They're gonna if you do live with your parents, you're gonna have to have that conversation. If you're foster youth, it's gonna look different. So if you're foster youth, I would suggest you reach out to either Abraham and I, and we could go over it, because for foster youth it does get a little bit more tricky. So just reach out to us, please. So again, you might want to have these conversations already, so they could start. You are going to have to provide your parents tax forms for the last 2 years, right, Abraham? 2 years, right?
Can you repeat that again?
So they're going to have to provide their parents' tax returns for the last 2 years, right? It's 2 years.
Yeah, usually we require just either the last year or 2 years ago.
Okay. So just be ready to have that, and just have it so that way you could enter it right here. So and it's just, again, it's estimated, but it's better, like at some point you're gonna have to provide it. So just be accurate and have those tax returns, So for this, I don't know, I'm gonna go ahead and put 20, and for 2021, I'm just gonna go for these purposes, I'm just gonna put 20. And parent number 2, and then the total size of your guardians, the total size of parents, guardians, household, including applicants, parents, children. So, your household. So for this, I'll put 5. And are you independent of parent support? So pretty much like I believe if you're under 23, you're considered a dependent, and I mean, I don't think. Do you know more about that, Abraham? I'm sorry about this. So I think like if you're under 20, under 23, you're still considered dependent, right?
For the dependent, basically with finances, we're asking strictly on, so if your parents claim you as a dependent on your taxes, then that's how that works. So you want to make sure that a lot of times this information matches with what you put on your taxes,
Yes.
right? Because we are going to look at both of them. We're going to ask for your parents' taxes, and we're also going to see what you reported on the application just to make sure it matches. All right. So whatever it is that they have, you want to make sure that that's the same way you fill it out the same way. That way there's no issues. I recommend all of you too to follow that same procedure with financial aid, right? You want to make sure that everything is matching. I know that sometimes we may have you know, different family members that are living with us temporary or whatnot. But again, everybody has a different situation, so make sure that it aligns with what is said on the tax papers.
All right, thank you, Abraham. Thank you for clearing that up. So I think overall, anybody that's coming in from a high school freshman, you're more than likely going to be a dependent. If you're transferring, chances are you're going to be independent. So for the purpose of this, just to see what it looks like, if you're a freshman, more than likely you're not going to be independent. Unless you're foster youth, then if you're foster youth, you will probably be considered independent. If you're a transfer, I mean, chances are, I mean, well, you could still be dependent, but if not, chances are you might be independent, and it's just to go through this, for those that are transfer students, it's just going to ask you a couple additional questions. How many years you've been apart from your parents? What is your total family's actual income? You and your spouses, if you're married and if you have your own little family, what is the total family estimated income for 2021 and so forth, and how many dependent children you have in the household. So you if you are independent, you know, you would go ahead and fill these out. But for the purpose of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and click on the no, and it's just so we could continue moving and see what's next. So now we would click that, and then we click to the next section, and it's going to ask you if you want to continue going. And here is where you describe, and this is where I initially meant to show your vulnerability, and again, there is a word count restriction, so please try to adhere to that. And this is where I really mean like where you should be a little bit more vulnerable, because it's asking you, this right here where we're trying to get to know you. The program's trying to get to know you. So you're gonna, the first question is this, asking you to briefly describe your family's economic background, include information about your financial changes. And this is where, if certain things that impacted you might want to think about using it, if you grew up in a single household, if that just puts you in a more challenging situation than somebody else. If if parents were, some of us, there's some students that have had a parent, deported, and that, dramatically affected the family. Those are things, keeping it short and simple, but that you might want to be like just vulnerable. And then the next question is, why would you like to attend college? This is what the program wants to know. Like, why would you want to do it? Are you a good candidate for the program? And this is what's going to show kind of like what I tell students is they want to see your drive, and essentially that's how they're going to determine who's a better fit for the program, because we do say this is an opportunity. So give yourself that, the best opportunity you can, and just really think about this. Really think about it. I mean, don't go ahead and write something really, really long, but really be purposeful in what you write here, and try to be as vulnerable as you can. Give yourself the best chances. The next question is just asking about your academic background, and a lot of times from the students that I've assisted, I usually assist more resilient scholars, so foster youth. So this one is usually like really difficult for some people, while they all are. But this one, like since a lot of the population were seeking, they feel like if they need to have something to show, like that they've done something. And I remember me doing this. I kind of hesitated because I felt that I wasn't involved in as much things. But if that's the case, this is yet another opportunity to say why you weren't. So don't just like leave this blank, and just this is kind of like an opportunity to say like, I didn't have the ability to do so because of my situation, but I would have liked to done this. So again, it's asking you like, what support did you do in high school? Did you tutor? Like, did your grades in high school or in your college reflect your academic ability or potential? And this, don't be afraid to add like why, So so that kind of included this one too, like the volunteer things where, again, how I mentioned how I felt I didn't have any of that. I almost left it blank. And then pretty much the last question here. So this is going to be pretty much the last of the application. So is there any additional information that you would like to like the EOP to consider? So this is pretty much like up to you. Like, what would you want the program to know about you? And what sets you apart from any of the other students applying? Like, why do you want the program to give you the opportunity? What would you do with this? Why, so just really think about that. If any of you want to make some time to like, make a Zoom and really talk about this, and, throw things out there to see if, if we could plant some seeds and then like something comes out of that, then I'm also willing to do so. But this is where the program really is going to see you and see who you are. So for that, I don't believe there's anything after this.
Yeah, I think this should be
this should be it. So I'm gonna go just to double check. I'm gonna go ahead and see. Or I'll just. This should be it. So if you have any further questions, and there you go. And then there's one last thing, and this is where you create your recommendation request. So this is where you're gonna make sure you speak either to a counselor. I think it has to be from an academic person. I believe they both do, right, Abraham? So this is where like, and make sure before you send them this, like make sure you ask them and they're aware of it, and get their emails. And this is just where it's just as simple. You're gonna just add their name, their last name, email address. You're gonna put the deadline for the EOP recommendation deadline, and I don't know why it's like already showing up. But and then a quick message right here, and you send it, and then this is where you might just want to put like thank you for being my recommender, and they'll receive a link that they'll click on, and it's going to open up, and it's not actually a recommendation letter, it's a recommendation form. So it's a little bit easier for them to, you're going to enter this. Abraham, do you know why this says 12/4/2020? Okay, well.
No, that I'm not too sure about. However, the EOP recommendation, so once you fill out everything out, I believe it starts opening it up. I think right now it's not open because there's no information.
That might be it.
But it should open up. So this is a great question because
can I answer the question real quick, Abraham?
Yes, of course.
Hi, Abraham. Hi, everyone. So I am Gladys Garcia. I am an academic advisor over at Cal State Northridge, and I do work hand in hand with the EOP program as I am also a staff for EOP. So I have gone through this application process to aid other students. As you know, Abraham, I was asking questions in regards to the application. And the student and I went through the program, and it appears that the EOP recommendation deadline, it automatically sets it up for you. So the application sets up by itself 2 weeks prior the deadline. So
Yes.
we applied. It was the due date was like December 1st when we finished the application with the student. But now it looks like it's December 4th. So I guess the closest you're getting to the deadline, it's going to say when, you know, it's going to mark it 2 weeks prior, because, you know, it just makes sure it wants it to get delivered on time. I hope I didn't cut off so much.
Yes. So yes, that's yes, for sure. That's exactly what I was about to mention. So what's happening right now is that the CSU is automatically giving the recommender a 2-week period, right? However, this is for CSUN. If for whatever reason the recommender did not get to it within the 2 weeks, still have them send it to us. Okay? So for whatever reason, your recommender did not meet that 2-week deadline given to them, as you see that it's automated for them.
You're right.
Still send it to us. Okay?
Excellent.
Great point.
Okay. Thank you, Gladys. Thank you
And
for
I'm
clearing that
gonna,
up. Like, I was just like, why is this showing this? But thank you for that.
Yeah,
No,
Albert,
no
let me clear
problem.
something up on the chat really quick. So
Okay.
there's different deadlines, right? So the EOP, the CSU application deadline is December 4th. The EOP application deadline is January 15th, right? So one thing is that a lot of students think that just because they're applying to EOP, they don't have to submit it December 4th. They still need to submit the CSU application by December 4th, or else they won't let you go back and edit the EOP application. So make sure that on December 4th, even if you're applying to EOP, you get the application in for the CSU, because once you do not meet the CSU deadline, you can't go and apply to EOP. All right. So we always recommend the students to do both at the same time. That way they don't have to go back and edit, right? Because we know that what happens after December 4th, Christmas and New Year's. And who's going to want to be worrying about college applications throughout those times? You're going to want to be with family, right? So sometimes you forget them, right? You're all caught up with family and all those things. So again, we recommend you doing all of them by December 4th. That way, when January comes, all you need to do is follow up with your recommenders. All right.
Okay, thank you for
So
that.
we have another question real quick. How many recommendations do we need as a foster youth, kindergarten, or parent be your recommendation? So you need 2. So again, this applies all across the board. You need 2 recommendation forms. So they're not letters of recommendation, they're recommendation forms. As a foster youth, again, you need one from an academic source. And let's say if you work, then you can ask your boss, but at least one has to be from an academic source. We recommend just asking a counselor and the teacher, then that'll do it, right? But if for whatever reason the student can't, they can ask a boss if they work and whatnot, okay? Or someone that can speak to their academic abilities. I hope that answered your question, Kevin. All right, so
Okay,
go
so
ahead, Albert. Just finish it off, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for.
okay, so this is pretty much it. So this is the last thing, your recommendation thing, and I'll go ahead and leave it here. The last things you gotta do is click on these things to waive your rights and permission to contact recommender, and you save it, and that's pretty much the whole process. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop sharing my screen now. So I hope that helps. Having a visual help. And if you have any other questions, keep putting them in the chat. So now I'll hand it back to Abraham.
Yes. So right now, just so you know about the resources, I'm gonna ask. I know we're going over time. Again, this is Alfredo. We did bring in one of our alumni, CSUN EOP alumni, Jose Miramontes. So Jose, you know, if you can, you know, introduce yourself, and then, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of like a Q&A, ask you some questions in regards to your EOP experience. So Jose, are you still with us?
Yes, sir.
Awesome, Jose. So Jose, obviously, we've been talking about the program, some of the resources that it has. What are some of the challenges that you faced in college that the EOP program was able to support you with?
For me, not being from the area was adapting to that community. It was very different. I wasn't used to like committing to such a big thing because for me in my life, committing to being a university student at Northridge, it was a big thing. I feel that with the group of people that I came in, we were all in similar footsteps, but the EOP program, looking out for their students, trying to get them the best support. They provided us with mentors who had already gone through that experience for the most part, and that's one of the things the mentors were able to walk us through. Me as being a freshman, I stayed close to the mentors because I knew that I was gonna need their guidance because I was aware that I believe that I wasn't ready at the time, but I was there. So I had to grow up pretty fast in order to the way I put it, survive out there, which was grades, staying out of trouble, and a lot of it had to do with the guidance that the program provided, especially with the mentors.
Yes, definitely. What about, so throughout your application process back in high school, what are some of the things that you struggled most with?
One of the things that I struggled most with was, first of all, it's gonna sound a little different for me, but believing in myself to start. I thought to myself, they're not gonna accept me. It's a waste of time. I shouldn't invest my time in this. But I had a mentor who, at the time, was my college advisor. I was in the Upward Bound program here at Long Beach, and he himself is an alumni, so he pushed me. Um, I struggled in expressing myself through the questions that EOP asked me because, like they mentioned in the presentation, there are some personal questions. So, in my opinion, was like, what does that have to do with, a college admission? So that was one of my struggles. But my mentor at the time, he explained to me, and he just asked me to just pour my feelings out as best as I could as to how my life had affected my background and why I was considered educationally disadvantaged and historically low income.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Jose, for being with us and sharing, your knowledge, your experience. So right now, we're gonna again open it up for questions. So if you want to unmute yourself, and then we can assist you.
One student is asking if her parents went to school outside of the country, which I feel I know the answer, but I just want to double check with you if that still makes sure if they went got their education in another country, but their degree is not valid here. Does that still make her? That should still make her first generation, right?
Yes, only because it's in the States, so it's a whole different world here, right? The education obviously we know that, I don't know why, but the education in a different country is not as valued as high as here. So they still, even if let's say you want to get a job and you tell someone that, you have education somewhere else, they'll still kind of make you go through the process here and get a degree. Even we were just having a presentation, Albert, with a Morningside high school teacher who got her education in the Philippines, and she came back she moved to the States, and she still kind of had to do school here. So again, you should be able to qualify. However, since I'm giving you my best bet, I'm almost positive, get that student's name and let's contact them. Let's contact them, and we'll make sure to ask Gina, our associate director, to get you that concrete answer. All right, Albert, what was the second question you had?
The other one was when will they be notified whether if they're getting an interview?
Great question. So later on in the admissions process, again, it's going to be next year, right, when college decisions are being sent out. We don't have a specific date of exactly when you'll find out, because again, the review process is, it does take time. But just know that if you ever have any questions about your, your application and whatnot, just by attending this workshop, you have direct contacts with me and Albert to ask those questions, right? Because it always varies. I can't give you a definite answer of when you will know, but definitely I can tell you, make sure you're always checking your emails, right? Because that is exactly where we're going to send everything. So make sure that you have, once you apply, you activate your portal and activate your CSUN email, because that's where we're going to be sending you all of the information.
Raya wants to ask a question on the mic. So she
Yes.
has more. Yeah, absolutely, you can. But I'll go ahead and let you unmute yourself, Soraya, and you could ask your question.
Okay, thank you. So I'm already doing my application and I'm filing as an independent for my FAFSA, but I noticed in the EOP area, it asked for our parents' income. So I was just wondering, like, what was the bracket that you guys are looking for to be considered low income?
So the bracket is actually on our website. However,
Okay.
if you're independent, it may differ. Also, if you're a resilient scholar, it changes the whole thing, right? So get our emails and we can work closely with you on filling that application. Right now, the most simple thing I can tell you is that those questions with the parent income, they don't apply. So just does not apply with those. All right, but email myself or Albert and we can walk you through that directly. I think we have a question asking about the parents' estimates. So again, we're gonna, on the questions, we go by the year. So basically what your parents report on the taxes for their gross income, that's what you would fill out. All right, on the EOP income verification form, that as well. So you add up the totals.
So we have another question. How does the EOP assistance look like for transfer students? So if you're a transfer student, I will say this. Alexander, were you part of the EOPS at your community college?
Yeah.
Okay, so the assistance, can you be a little bit more clear? The assistance in what? Are you talking about the overall support of the program, or are you talking about the transfer process, or?
The overall support.
Okay, so the overall support, just I will say this, we will get into this a little bit more later, but trust me, it's the support from the difference from EOPS and EOP. It's like, to me, in my opinion, it's night and day, and I'll be happy to get into that. Like, they offer a lot more services that EOPNS does. I came from a community college, so there's definitely a lot more resources available.
For community college, again, we do have a transfer bridge program as well. And we actually also had it this past summer, also virtually. So you also have a mentor, which is Albert here, right? And he kind of walks you through the whole process, again, exposes you to different resources that we have on campus. So you get similar resources that I mentioned earlier on the slides. Again, if you came in late and didn't get an opportunity to kind of get that glimpse of the general purpose of the program and the resources, make sure you email us and we can definitely answer those questions. Any other questions?
My question is for, I believe there was an advisor here or a counselor. I'm not sure if you could assist with this question, Abraham, but if a student was accepted to CSUN in 2019, but decided not to go to CSUN in 2019, but would like to go for 2020, is there a different process that we have to take, or because you were accepted, it's still the same process and you could just apply for EOP and not have to reapply for school?
Yeah, so it depends. Did they deny their admissions to CSUN? And did they let the university know that they were not attending?
I believe not, to both questions. So they didn't give information that they were not going to attend. And they didn't do anything. They just decided not to, move forward with that. But
do you know if they applied to EOP?
They had not applied to EOP at the time.
Okay, yeah, so that's actually, so they may want to check that with the admissions, right? Because if they are
Mhm.
considered already a seasoned student, they can't necessarily apply to EOP because they can only do it as a first-time freshman. However, let's say if the university may have disregarded their application, um, then I can definitely ask my supervisor and see if you know they can just it's kind of like ignore the first round and redo it and see if they can go through that.
Okay, and when you say redo it, is reapply for Cal State Northridge or
Yeah,
just
reapply with EOP, you know, to Cal State Northridge with the EOP, basically as if nothing had happened. They just dismissed the previous application.
okay. Do you have any information for a liaison that I could contact from admissions and records that works with EOP?
Yeah, so but the admissions and records wouldn't be for EOP because they weren't in EOP. If they were in EOP, then
Mhm.
obviously I can, you know, assist them. But since
Okay,
they're not, that's why I asked. Since they're not, you know, you would want to check with CSUN admissions.
okay.
Yeah, do you
Then a
know if the
follow.
student, do you know if
Mhm.
the student qualifies for EOP?
Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. So Kevin, why don't we do this? You can email me, um, and then I'll see. I know someone from admissions I can connect you with.
Okay, perfect. And then my
Awesome.
follow-up question is, in the questions for the application of EOP, it asks if the individual stayed in subsidized housing. For a foster youth, does a foster home count or transitional housing program count as subsidized, or it does not?
Transitional housing?
Yes, or foster home. Does that count as subsidized housing?
I'm not too sure, to be honest with you, of the subsidized housing. Albert, do you know that one?
Oh, sorry about that. Can you repeat that again?
Yes, for subsidized housing on the application of Cs at EOP, would living in a foster home or a transitional housing program as a foster youth, does that qualify as a subsidized housing?
Okay.
You
Are you
know what,
talking
Kevin? I think,
application for housing on campus?
No, if the foster youth lived their whole lives or their teenage lives in a foster home, right? They were not with their parents, or they were in a transitional housing program, which is only for foster youth. In the question for subsidized housing, does that qualify as subsidized housing? I believe, given
Oh, I think I
for
know what you
Section 8.
mean. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I don't, unless this is, I will double check and I will definitely get you the answer, but I don't, I don't think it does unless who you are living with does that. But I think if you were considered foster youth, I think that question might not pertain to you. So it might be one of those things as foster youth, like it might not affect you no matter how you answer that question. It might not
Mm,
affect you. This is why I've said a couple of times, like foster youth is it's a little bit different. So definitely get my email. I think I just put it up. And email me, and I will get all these answers for you. I might not have all of them right now, but I will definitely check with you. And let's get this communication between both of us going, and we will definitely get you that answer. But I think that I almost want to say that that question's aimed more for other students. When you're foster youth, it changes a lot. So, and it makes it really unclear with certain things with foster youth. So, definitely email me and we can, I will get back to you on this.
awesome. My last question is for Resilient Scholars application. Um, does it come together? Is there a different day? Is it separate? How would that work for Resilient Scholars?
So for the Resilient Scholars application, it is a separate application, and you will be able to find it online. Just I would, if you want, I can forward it to you. But if not, you can look for it. I mean, just Google CSUN EOP Resilient Scholars, and it should pop up. And it is a different application. You will be required to provide an award. dependency letter or word of court letter as well.
Of course.
So
Awesome. Thank you guys for your time.
yeah, I'm not too sure of the date. So like I said, email me and we could get this going. I don't know the date off the deadline for that one. I apologize for that, but we can definitely get that for you.
No worries. I'll definitely create an email and email both of you together. Thank you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yes.
Yes, me. For the parents' income questions, do we add tax?
Yeah, so the parent income, yeah, you want to report the taxes. However, you only want to report the taxes that they claim you under. So whoever you're the dependent, though, that's the numbers you want to report on your application.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think like whoever, like if you don't live with both parents, you would only report with the one that claims you.
Okay.
Yes.
But my mom does not file taxes. But she is planning to because of my Dream Act application, and she's still in the process of starting her taxes. So I don't know if I should not add the taxes right now. So,
Yep.
Or should I wait because I don't want to turn in my application late.
Yeah.
And I don't know how long it would take for to clear that.
Yeah, good question.
Mhm.
So here's the thing. Right now, for the case being, you want to just give an estimate, right? And what we mentioned earlier, there's an EOP income verification form. You can fill the EOP income verification form out, and we're gonna ask you about it to submit it to us when we're reviewing, so you don't have to just send it in right away. And that's basically, you can do that, just in case your parents' taxes are not in yet. I'm probably assuming they won't be, because obviously we know that's a process. You're gonna fill out that form. I'm gonna attach it right here to the chat. That's the form that you're gonna fill out. Okay, if you're, for whatever reason, if your parents haven't done the taxes. For the
Okay.
EOP application though, just do your best bet, your estimate. Okay, since they don't currently file taxes.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
And then also for the Dream Act, another question?
Yeah. So for me, both of my parents, they filed me for the taxes. So for 1 year, my dad will, and then the other year, my mom will. So how will I put that in my application?
Who do you live with? Do you live with both?
I live with my mom right now.
And do you also switch like housing too, or no?
Yeah.
Who would you say you spend most of your time with?
My mom, but she's not on my FAFSA application. My dad is.
And then you want to go with what?
My taxes.
Yeah, you want to keep it consistent with your FAFSA.
Okay.
Do you know who makes more money?
My father does.
Okay. Yeah, because you want to make sure that you also, for whatever reason, you're also fitting the income criteria. So, depending on the household that your dad has, or the household your mom has, the household size is what I'm talking about. You want to check the qualifications on our EOP website to make sure that you'll qualify, that you'll be considered low income.
Okay.
All right.
Do you think that I can put on my the questions that they ask on the EOP application? Do you think I can put that as an answer for one of the questions?
Like that's one of your
Like when they say can I say that living with both of my families have been kind of a challenge? Like, do you think?
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Criteria?
Definitely,
Okay.
right? Because that's a challenge for you, in a normal world, we would want to be with both of the parents at the same time. But because of, reasons that you have no control over, yes, definitely that's a hardship. Yeah, good
Okay,
question.
thank you.
Good question. And then just make sure that with your finances, with everything, just so you won't encounter any problems, make sure that everything that you do. So like right now, you're basically inputting all of your dad's information. Make sure you do that all the way through, because then you're gonna get into like some conflict of the information not matching.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you.
Okay. You're welcome. Any other questions? Any other questions?
If by any means you probably forgot to do something in the application, until what dates do you have to fix it, and or can you fix it?
Yeah, so the EOP application deadline, once again, it's on January 15th. So you have up to January 15th to fix it if something went wrong.
Okay.
All right, so the CSU application is due on December 4th, CSUN, right? Again, we recommend you submitting in both. Get done with, just finish both of them. However, if for whatever reason you do miss something, then January 15th is the last day to go ahead and submit it.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Preguntas, questions?
There's
We
a
are
question
good?
on the thing. It says, is there any place to get the information shared on here?
Yes, there is. So definitely on our CSUN EOP website, I'm gonna go ahead and put in that website for you. That way, everything we discussed, definitely get familiar with our website. It has literally all the information that you need. First, we have a first-time freshman tab. So if you go to programs, CSUN EOP admissions tab, where it says first-time freshman, I'm gonna go ahead and give you the direct link. It basically has all the information that we covered. And again, if there's more personal questions like the ones we've been getting, feel free to, again, email myself or Albert. But there's the link. It should take you to the first-time freshman. If you're not a first-time freshman, again, coming out of high school, we also have a transfer one, which you'll find on the same website. Let me go ahead and post that one too, just in case. First-time transfer. So the first-time transfer one, there's the link right there on the chat as well. All right, are we all good? Are we clear? Answered all your questions. Any remaining questions? All right, everyone. Well, we thank you for attending our workshop. It was amazing. Sharing, the resources of EOP, how you can apply. Again, it's always a good thing, to be able to present on the program that, shifted the direction of my life. So I want to thank you for attending and being with us tonight. Albert, you want to do any closing statements?
Yes, I wanted to thank all of you for attending, and most of all for engaging. Thank you for being so engaged and asking all these questions and giving us the opportunity to be able to help you in your transition and during your application process. It was a great turnout. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here. And I want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving and stay safe.
But continuing on, everyone, we also want to thank our guest speaker, Jose Miramontes. Thank you so much for being with us, for answering those questions. We appreciate you being in attendance. Again, everyone, thank you for joining us. We hope that you enjoy the holidays, you get your applications in. Make sure that if you need any support, any assistance, you reach out to us, all right? Thank you for being with us.